In an old, crumbling mansion that had stood for over a century, there was a room locked away from visitors. In the center of that room hung a massive portrait, a woman with pale skin, dark eyes, and an eerie smile. Legend had it that the woman in the painting was the first owner of the mansion, Lady Eliza Harrington, who vanished under mysterious circumstances. No one dared to enter the room, for it was said that Lady Eliza's spirit was trapped within the painting. Over the years, many brave souls tried to remove the portrait, only to fall ill or disappear without a trace. The locals believed the portrait was cursed, warning others to stay away. One fateful Halloween night, a group of friends, curious about the rumors, broke into the mansion to see the cursed portrait for themselves. As they ventured deeper into the mansion, the air grew colder, and the house creaked as though it were alive. When they reached the locked room, one of them, Jake, found an old key hidden in the floorboards. The door creaked open, revealing the massive portrait hanging on the wall. Lady Eliza's dark eyes seemed to follow them as they entered. Her smile, faint and unsettling, seemed to grow wider. Despite the fear building inside them, they couldn't tear their eyes away from the painting. Suddenly, the room's temperature plummeted. The wind howled through the broken windows, and a cold, spectral voice whispered their names. One by one, the friends saw their reflections in the painting, twisted, aged, and distorted versions of themselves. The more they looked, the more their own faces seemed to fade. Jake tried to look away, but his feet were frozen to the floor. The others screamed, but their voices were swallowed by the darkness that now filled the room. In the painting, Lady Eliza's figure began to move. Her eyes glowed with a sinister light, and her smile stretched unnaturally wide. In the morning, the mansion was quiet once again, and the door to the room was locked, as if no one had entered. Inside, the portrait remained, but now the faces of the friends were painted alongside Lady Eliza, their terrified expressions forever trapped within the cursed canvas. On the outskirts of a small town, hidden deep within the forest, was a cemetery that time had forgotten. Overgrown with weeds and shrouded in fog, the tombstones were cracked and crumbling, the names of the dead long erased by time. Locals avoided the cemetery, whispering tales of restless spirits and cursed graves. But every Halloween, strange lights could be seen flickering between the trees, and eerie sounds echoed through the night. One Halloween, a group of teenagers dared to explore the cemetery, armed with flashlights and bravado. They followed the overgrown path through the woods, their footsteps crunching on the dead leaves. The deeper they went, the more the air seemed to thicken, and the world grew unnaturally quiet. Finally, they reached the forgotten graves. As they wandered through the cemetery, the wind began to howl, and a thick fog rolled in, enveloping them. The flashlights flickered, casting eerie shadows on the cracked tombstones. Then, one of them, Emily, tripped over something buried in the ground, a small, rusted metal box. Curious, they pried it open, revealing an old, weathered journal inside. The pages were filled with strange symbols and cryptic messages, all warning of a terrible curse. According to the journal, those who disturbed the cemetery on Halloween night would awaken the spirits, and they would not rest until they claimed a new soul. As they read the final entry, the ground beneath them began to tremble. The tombstones shifted, and faint whispers filled the air. One by one, ghostly figures began to rise from the graves, their hollow eyes fixed on the intruders. The teenagers ran, but the fog grew thicker, and the spirits followed, their cold, skeletal hands reaching out. Emily was the first to vanish, her scream cut short as she was pulled into the ground. The others scattered, desperate to escape, but the cemetery had become a labyrinth. No matter which way they turned, they found themselves back among the graves. By morning, the cemetery was quiet once again, the fog lifted, but the teenagers were never seen again. The townspeople say that on Halloween night, if you listen closely, you can still hear their screams echoing through the forgotten cemetery.